I want to go ahead and bring in a gentleman right now we've got with us, and that is the former quarterback for the Arizona Wildcats, George Malauulu. I'm going to pop him on the screen right now because we've got him with us. George, can you hear us, buddy?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me?
We sure can, George. Thank you so much for coming on today, man. We really appreciate it, and we are so glad we finally got to hook up with you. And first off, we want to jump right into this because your time is valuable to us. We want to get your reaction when you heard USC and UCLA, two teams that you have seen a lot of in your career and in your days at Arizona, are joining the Big Ten. What did you think when you heard about those moves, and what do you think's in the future plans for the Pac-12, the conference you used to play in?
Yeah, initially, just kind of thinking about it, it was a downer at first, but when you realize the NILs and the portals and the money that's going to be generated from the move, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, just for the West Coast, it's going to be a downer just because two of the prominent programs are going to be going to the Midwest, which doesn't make any sense, but doesn't, nowadays it just seems like everyone's just, I guess they're in the portal. I guess SC and UCLA went in the portal when they left.
Hell, man, there's thousands of kids in the portal. You might as well put a couple of teams in there too, right?
There's some other teams, and I'm hearing Oregon and Washington, but I want to understand there's a Pac-12, a Pac-10, I guess now. Yeah. Pac-10 statement that went out, and I guess the other 10 are remaining or holding tight. So I just hope for the West Coast, it just allows for them to go ahead and stay and try to build on top of what's still here, what's left. But if you think about all the Bryce Youngs, the DJ Uyungleleles, the Tuas, all the West Coast kids, they're all migrating to the east. So
yep.
I don't know. We'll just kind of see exactly what's going on, but it's just a sign of the times.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you brought that up, George. And James, I'll let you go here in a minute. I know you got some questions for him, but I want to piggyback off that because we talked about that last week, and I want to get your thoughts about that. As a guy who grew up in California and then stayed out west and played at Arizona, talk to me about these kids. You mentioned DJU and Bryce Young, and there's been a ton of others that have shined, in the West Coast, from Arizona, from California, even heck, some kids from Washington have all seemed to go east and transfer, and either transfer or play for an SEC team. And heck, look at CJ Stroud. He's from Rancho Cucamonga in California too. And it seems like all these guys are going east, like you mentioned. What do you think the reason is for that? And do you think that can change, and that some of these teams can keep those guys out west, especially with Lincoln Riley coming into USC, and obviously, Chip Kelly being at UCLA? Can they keep some of those guys now?
Well, I hope so. But I'm just looking at my nephew. My nephew just he committed to Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava. He's going to Tennessee, and you look at the kid that's at Pittsburgh up north, Northern California. He just looks like he's going to Miami. So, I mean, it's just with this NIL and all the money that's just being that emerges from all these backdoor deals, it just seems like everybody back east is willing to go ahead and fork up the money in order for these kids to go ahead and claim that particular kid for their programs. And if you look at the East, I mean, my older daughter went to Mississippi State, and I'm a Pac-12 guy, period. But man, when I go back there and I see the football and I see just the amount of backing, support, commitment towards just sports in general, I mean, they're willing to go ahead and fork over the money that just brings all these eyes and the attention, and ESPN backs the SEC. So I mean, why wouldn't you jump in that direction, so that way your program and scholarships and all those other different things can kind of make it easier for you to go ahead and recruit a lot of these big name guys.
Hey, George, what was your recruiting process like coming out of California, and then ultimately ended up with Dick Toomey at Arizona? Like, well, I mean, obviously the process is radically different than it is today. We've heard that countless times, but what was going through your thought process to go play for Coach Toomey at the end result in Tucson?
Well, first of all, back then the private schools couldn't get down with the public schools, so the Carson, the Bannings, the Long Beach Polys pretty much were the dominant teams here in SoCal.
Mm-hmm.
My senior year at Carson, we were number 2 in the country.
Yep.
And the previous year, my junior year, Banning High School was number 1 in the country.
Wow.
For my high school team, my senior year, we had 11 D1 commits.
Wow.
11. And then the previous year, we had 10 previous to that. So in my 2 years, we had 22, 23 D1 guys on that one team.
Wow. That's crazy.
Well, look at Long Beach Poly. Long Beach Poly, I think they have the most NFL players today in regards on let alone on rosters and previous.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, George, I'm actually here I live in Knoxville now, and there's been a lot of talk about your nephew. I didn't even know he was your nephew. That's crazy. Nico, being such a high profile guy, I didn't know he was your nephew. That's nuts. But there's a lot of people around these parts that are really excited about him coming down here, man.
Well, my son was at Bosco last year. He's a sophomore.
Yeah.
And he found out Nico was going back to Long Beach Poly, so he went with his cousin. Now they're all going to be playing together. So,
oh, cool.
Nico's senior year is my son's junior year, so he'll be catching a lot of Nico's passes. Hopefully, we'll see what comes. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen, not only for Nico, but his younger brother Madden, which is going to be the next one up, after Nico graduates.
Wow. Yeah, there's been a lot of hoopla about him, and there's the whole world of recruiting has just gotten crazy, and I just want to get your thoughts. You went through it back when you were signing on to be the quarterback in Arizona, and now, as you told me, you've got 2 daughters, one who plays at Mississippi State, one who plays at UCLA, and then you've got sons coming up too. What was the biggest difference between when you went through the process and what's going on now with recruiting wise?
There's no $8 million NIL deal.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of them. But they allowed you to play other sports. I was supposed to play baseball alongside football, and Arizona just being around the corner. I mean, that was a 7-hour drive for the parents. Allowed me to get in there and my team, play football. So it seemed like I never was able to kind of pull away from the football field just because somebody was hounding for my job come spring ball. So I had to stay nice and tight to my spot and figure it out.
We just showed the touchdown you had against Washington to put them away. That had to have been, I mean, there's probably a lot of great memories you had from playing. Just watching your body language as soon as you got up, knocking off the number 1 team in the country, and with Napoleon Kaufman, Billy Joe Holbert. I mean, that was a heck of a Washington team. I mean, was that the culmination of, you think, of your college football career, is winning that game at home?
I think that was one of the highlights. Definitely one of the highlights. It would have been nice to have had that same kind of experience, especially in the Orange Bowl when we lost to Miami 8-7.
Yep.
We had a chance in the last couple of seconds to kick it up through the uprights and bring down the Hurricanes, but McLaughlin pushed it right. So we were close. We've been able to beat 2 number 1 teams at the time. So it was a special time with all those guys, Levy, Brewski, was a special time and especially with Coach Tomey being the kind of guy who brought everybody together, and he was definitely a genuine coach that really meant what he said when it came down to being being our leader and taking us to where we needed to be.
Yeah. Well, and now, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Nate.
No, I was just going to say, on top of that, that's one of the biggest things, in my opinion, of college football is you got to have that leader. And that's the one thing that, hasn't really been there consistently for Arizona over the last, whatever years. They haven't had that guy that's had that continued success. What do you think about the coaching staff that's there now? And, what do you think about the guys that have just not been able to, for whatever reason, keep Arizona being consistent like they were back when Dick was the coach?
Well, I'm really happy to see what Coach Fish is doing now. I mean, he brought alumni back to the program.
Yep.
One of our Desert Storm guys, Brandon Sanders, he brought him to the staff and just allowing for a lot of our alumni to kind of express and share some of the experiences that we've had, but in order to get it back to where it was, you got to bring the guys that were there that made it happen. Because if you bring in somebody else outside, I mean, Coach Fish brought in Gronk, brought in Brewski, so I mean they were all together when they were up in New England. So I mean, just bringing the culture, and if you look at it, I mean, they were able to bring T-Mac in. That was such a big recruit out of Southern California to flip him from Oregon to Arizona, along with Noah Fifita. It was definitely a big change of rosters with him on the. I think he was the most heralded recruit to date in regards to 4 or 5 stars. That we were bringing back to Tucson.
Well, now, I mean, you were talking before about the culture that Coach Toomey had at the program and how that really helped develop it. It seems like you've kind of taken a lot of what Coach Toomey gave to you and really put it into your foundation. Is it the IGA? Is that how you pronounce it? The IGA Foundation?
AIGA is the Samoan word for family.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that if you look at Coach Tomey's track record, he was very he believed in the Polynesian athletes, especially when he was at UH. Yeah. And then when he came into Arizona, I mean, he continued that same pattern of recruiting a lot of our Polynesian brothers, as far as back home in American Samoa, Hawaii, and all throughout the states. So the fact that I was able to experience such a great time under his regime, it made something of a mission statement for me to go ahead and go back into those communities, into the Polynesian communities, to try to nurture relationships and get those kids up and up, so that way they can be leaders for their respective communities when they graduate and it's time for them to go back home and just do it for the next generation.
Absolutely, and pass that along. I saw that with a gentleman that was at the University of Minnesota, Daniel Fa'alele, got drafted in the 4th round. I mean, just a quality individual. I mean, everybody talks about what happens on the field. It's what I saw off the field too, as well. Like, I remember hearing people tell me that he was at like 4th and 5th grade basketball tournaments, and he was sitting there signing autographs and even helping run clock. I mean, just being there, part of the community, not only supporting the team, but showing who he is as a person too as well. And now you guys do the Polynesian Bowl too as well. Is that correct?
Well, I help out brother Jesse Sapolu. Jesse Sapolu does it in Hawaii.
Yeah.
We do the Polynesian All-American Bowl here in LA. So it's pretty much we've done it over the last 11 years. Jesse's done it over the last 5, I believe. But it was something that, he was able to kind of stretch out over Hawaii and then just bring in a lot of the nation's best to Hawaii, just to go ahead and give a lot of our prominent Polynesians an opportunity to go ahead and compete against the top recruits across the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Talk to us a little more. I mean, there's been so many great players, that have come through that bowl and that have come through based on your foundation. Why are there so many guys that can play football and have the drive to do it? That you've crossed paths with.
Well, for one, one phone call back to the house straightens out the kid. So you're not going to have any knuckleheads that are going to go ahead and act like a clown in class, on campus, on the football field. Like I said, one phone call back home will go ahead and cure all that. So when you have that kind of discipline, our people are very spiritual, so they're not going to deviate from the program that's already laid out for you. So to have those kind of guys in the locker room, kind of being your patrol guys to make sure that people aren't taking a big detour, really kind of helps in governing what's going on in the locker room as well as on the field. At the same time, we've been blessed. A lot of our Polynesian guys have been blessed in regards to being blessed with natural talent. But at the same time, I really believe it's just our upbringing and our family traits of knowing that we got our brothers, back in anything that we do on campus as well as off the field.
And you guys go beyond football too as well, right? You guys get into softball and volleyball. Is that correct?
We do it all. We you know what? My daughters, when I was doing the football thing, they looked at me, all my nieces, they all looked at me and says, "Dad, Uncle, why you do it for the boys, but you don't do it for us?"
Yeah.
So Kiara Jennings at Oklahoma, Mary Yakopa at Texas. Who else is out there? My daughters. I can keep on going down a list long. Some of these college coaches on the softball side call me up and say, "George, who else do you have?" Oh, there's a lot more.
Yeah, that's a great feeling when you get those kind of calls.
No, it's a beautiful thing, because then you have these parents that they commit towards their kids. They allow for the tournaments and committing to taking their kids to these softball tournaments, friendlies, what have you. And I think a lot of the girls that have gone through the process has really brought them a path or a way in order for them to understand it can be done. It can be done.
There's no doubt. And, I know we've talked about it a little bit on this show and other places, but I have to always admit, playing football, in high school, and then, I just played at a small college, but playing football in college and all that, it really, in my opinion, prepares people for life. And George, I'd like to get your feelings on that. I mean, you played at the highest level. Did you feel like, playing for Arizona and playing football, and when you were younger, did that help prepare you for what has come after football?
No, it really has. There's so much adversity to life, and for you to know that you got to fight through it, you got to fight and keep on fighting until you succeed is pretty much the lesson learned when it comes down to fourth and inches, and you got to get that, you got to get that first down to keep the ball moving, keep those chains moving. And Coach Tommy was a great advocate for success through your trials, and even to the point where after we graduated, a lot of us would go back, and he actually was the one who hit me up when Jesse and Jesse Sapola them were starting that Polynesian Bowl up in Hawaii. And the thing is that, the work is never done. I'm just hoping that, after me, there's several others that'll come out and continue the work at hand, because I think it's just so important for just the mission to let these kids and these parents know that, hey, just keep on fighting, because you're gonna weather the storm. And when everything is calm, cool, and collective, and you're with your family out there at at the Rose Bowl, at the World Series, at the volleyball national championship. It was all worth it. And getting that piece of paper and coming across that stage, that's icing on the cake.
Hey, George, what was the best piece of advice you received from your mentors? Need it be a high school coach, college coach, teammate, friend that you've really implemented into your day-to-day life today?
There was a good friend of mine, and he said, when we started this organization 23 years ago, he said, don't be a one and done. Don't be that group that just, you guys come, do one thing, and then it's over and done with. Allow for these kids to look at your program and want to be in that program when they get to that stage where they can participate. And I think that's what we've done. The Juju Smiths, the Troy Polamalu's, and all those guys that have been a part of our program, their story continues through their foundations and things that they do. Marcus Mariota comes back and helps out. So a lot of these guys that have been through our program continue. As a matter of fact, our Polynesian All-American Bowl this year, I will have the staff of the Oregon Ducks. So Tuine and Masoli and all those guys, the Oregon staff is going to be the coaches for one staff. And then the Arizona Wildcats, the Arizona Wildcats, the alumni, will be there to coach up the other team.
Nice.
So basically, it's going to be Oregon versus Arizona, coaching up both sides, alumni. So we're going to jazz it up. We're going to have a fun time with it, and we'll have 5 games MLK weekend, and it'll be pretty much 4 high school all-star games along with 1 youth game, and these 4 high school all-star games will be all throughout the West Coast. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted on what's going on, but for the most part, it's just trying to get these kids up and out with this portal.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous what you're doing, and we appreciate having somebody like you out there helping these kids. Because George, like me and you were talking about yesterday, it's hard. It's a lot harder now. I mean, we talked to Marshall McDuffie, as I mentioned to you, the head coach at Carrollton Day School in Tampa. He used to send between 10 and 15 kids to D1 every year. But now there's thousands of kids in the portal, and there's not as many scholarships to give out. The 5-star kids, they're okay. Most of the 4-star kids are probably okay, but those 3-star kids, the kids that really come on their senior year, it's tougher for them. And, some of them are having to go to prep school. Some of them are going to junior college, but with people out there like you helping them, they got a chance. And so we love what you're doing, and we appreciate you coming on with us, George. You were always one of my favorite players when you came up. I loved it because you could throw it with either arm, man. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, a quarterback that could throw it with either arm. I mean,
I thought that was first.
Yeah. I thought it was awesome. Come on, man. You got the defense didn't know where you were coming from. You could toss it with the left or throw it with the right. Who else could do that, right?
Well, could you pitch with both hands then too as well or not?
No. I threw predominantly right-handed. As a matter of fact, for those of you guys that don't know, I signed with the Angels after I got out of college.
Yeah.
I signed with Bobby Grich. Bobby Grich signed me on a golf course right here in Palm Beach. He had me go out and play a couple of games and say, I want to sign you. I said, okay, well, let's go. It's just too bad I tore my rotator cuff playing A-Rod in Arizona. And I was there's no way, especially if I'm throwing the ball from shortstop and the ball is rolling from second to first base. So I don't think that.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Well, George, man, we really appreciate you coming on, man.
To get on and shoot it with you guys. It's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man, and hopefully we can have you back on some other time and catch up with you and see what's going on with the bowl game and all the kids that you've helped.
Sounds good. You guys take care now. God bless you.
All right, man. Have a great day, and God bless you, brother.
Likewise.